Welcome to the 317 podcast, where today we're just talking about whatever hits us. Felt like a good time. Our co-host and buddy Mike isn't with us today. He had some. He just got home from a long trip and he had a pretty long day, couple days at work. So told him just sit out, rest, relax. We don't need you falling asleep on camera. And he'll be back with us on the next episode. But you know what? Let's get into it. You know, I did like last week's topic. Especially the more, like, even afterwards, the more we were talking, the more I got to think about it and stuff.
Yeah.
And just how powerful that idea of, laughter and humor being that, like, victory flag, you know?
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing when you think about it, you know?
Definitely. And to put something with so much meaning in something that happens every day, you know?
Right.
Something that's to see the importance of that. It's I think it gives it that much more priority, you know, like it's good. Give it that priority, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, and that's something that, well, we haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but for this 317 podcast, our more than 50% of our listeners right now are in China from what the data shows, which that's awesome. First of all, I don't care specifically where people listen to us. I think it's awesome wherever. Yeah. But the cultural and spiritual culture difference between what America is perceived as and what China is perceived as, or at least how we here in America perceive ourselves and how we perceive China.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that, I mean, I'm sure it's not just our humor because we're not laughing all the way through these podcasts. But we do like to have a good time. And I do think that does help open a door to a conversation that it wouldn't otherwise. And just real quick, if you're listening from China, I don't know any Chinese or Cantonese or Mandarin. I don't even know what all the different dialects are called, but I'm so glad you found us. Hopefully you enjoy listening to this and watching this, and yeah, we love you guys.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. But in saying that, I lost my train of thought, but
crazy
awesome,
work
man.
ethic, dude. Crazy work ethic. Oh my gosh, some of the best.
Oh yeah, I'm like, me? I forgot what I was saying. What do you mean? No, and that's, but so the perception here in the United States, at least in the Christian church, is that the general population of China is under at least some spiritual, we would call it oppression, but just, I mean, whatever you want to call it there, it's not as accepted to believe whatever you want to believe there the way it is here. I don't have any personal experience on to what level that is there, but I do know, my train of thought's coming back. I do know that I heard today, and it came out a couple years ago, but I just found out about it today, that the Chinese government, the CCP, is planning on rewriting, or is working on writing their own version of the Bible that is more conducive to their ideology.
The government's ideology?
The Chinese Communist Party's.
Oh, okay.
Which, yeah, the government's over there, their ideology.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I know that there's a passage in the Bible. I'm sure they're going to take it out in their version, but it talks about in the Bible, God says, if anyone would add or take away from the word of God, and then just lines up some pretty concise consequences.
Yeah.
But concise but clear consequences there. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but it's going to be a rough time for whoever's undertaking that task. Is all I can say. But to me, one thing is when you look at governments to have a secular approach, whatever they are going after, like here in the United States, whatever they're going after, that's generally, as Christians, where you can say, oh, that's the enemy's threatened by that.
Yeah.
As Christians, we would look at the devil and say whatever he's attacking, he's threatened by that.
Yeah.
So whatever government is going after, whatever any entity is really attacking, that's what they're threatened by.
Yeah, for sure.
So to see like, that government being that intimidated by Christianity, to me, shows that there is that even they recognize that there is a power there. Which we already know that we know that there's power in the Word of God.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know, man. I haven't even fully processed that like they're putting out their own version of the Bible and whatever. But all I can say is I'm sure there's going to be people working on this that are going to secretly or publicly, I don't know, convert because they have to read through the whole thing in order to change it. And I mean, I don't know.
That would be crazy. Dude.
They said they expect it to be a 10-year undertaking though.
Dang.
From beginning to end, and they started in 2019, I believe. Jeez. So I'm just interested to see what happens in the next 7 years. You know?
And it reminds me of the New Testament when the apostles were going from town to town, and then people would hear that these guys are coming, and they're flipping the world of those who hears them. They're flipping their world upside down.
Right.
Right. And it's like that. That's that power. The original Christian, like what it's meant to be, is like that unwatered down version. Yeah. Like that's what they got over there. And the government's like, guys, I mean, it's a real threat, right? It's always supposed to be a real threat. And that's kind of like, that's what it reminds me of. Mm-hmm. Is genuine, life-changing, life-altering Christianity that like where you just kind of you lose fear, you lose yourself in it,
right?
Like you just it's not about me anymore, it's about Christ,
right?
And that is how I live my entire life, and that, and the world doesn't like that, and like you said, it goes against everything that we've been taught from birth, It's good stuff, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's so crazy to think about. Not that I ever needed that sort of external validation for Christianity. I mean, I've experienced God in my life in ways that I would have to deny true memories I have in order to deny that there's a God and that he's all powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, my mustache is tickling my nose again.
Man.
But still to see that sort of thing happening in where, I mean, even at least our perception in the United States, again, I have no personal experience with China or the CCP, but my understanding of it is they are they're very against religion of any kind. So for them to say, okay, clearly we can't stamp this outright, so we're going to try to change it and make it work for us.
Yeah.
To me, that just shows the incredible value of the Word of God.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I don't know. We don't have to keep going deeper into that. It's crazy. And I just remembered it when we were kicking this off, that I found that out earlier today.
Well, I'm glad you did, because we can look back at history and see how Christianity has been manipulated and polluted in some instances with like Catholicism and where that came from and what it's been through and where it is now, and dude, it's not a good thing. I mean, it has its good parts, right? They've done a lot of good, and they got a lot of
not so good.
Not so good.
Yeah.
And I think the not so good really comes from nobody's perfect, right?
Right.
But it's in this case, it's corruption. It's flat out trying to manipulate something for your own benefit, right? It's there's a lot of power in that.
Well, and interesting you brought up Catholicism, because I was thinking about this before too. My wife was reading an article. Well, it's kind of a developing story, I guess, where there was a priest who has done, I mean, over decades this isn't gross, has done hundreds, if not thousands.
That's what we've come to.
I know.
With priests, dude. See?
Exactly. But he's done hundreds or thousands of baptisms and weddings. And now they're all coming into question and being nullified because he didn't perform them correctly. And when they say correctly, my understanding from what my wife read to me out of the article, she read me the whole article, and my understanding of it is he said, we baptize you. He used the word we as in the church, as opposed to I, or no, as opposed to Jesus baptizes you. That's what, something like that. So now the stance of the Catholic Church, who claims to believe and support an all-powerful God, is that one guy misspoke one word or one phrase in a minor way, not even a big one.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the Bible, it wasn't Jesus baptizing people. It was John the Baptist, and then it was people receiving the baptism of the Holy Spirit. So Jesus never was baptizing people, first of all. But, and also, like, never mind. But, but either way, even if I have that detail wrong or of what they did, but whatever. So baptism is supposed, and, marriage is a public declaration of a commitment to God.
Yeah.
Wedding, it's a public declaration of a union focused on God, that brought together and, focused on God. And so their honest belief, or at least their honest stance, is he misspoke this one thing. So it doesn't matter what was in the heart of those that were baptized.
Yeah.
He said something kind of incorrectly. So it's lost its value. Your baptism has lost its value. Your marriage has lost its value.
Jeez,
potentially.
Dude. Yeah. All these people, like your most precious memory and all that stuff is now stamped as null and void, or
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah. So Catholicism to me is the biggest example of wanting not even the power, wanting the influence of God, but denying all power and all personal conviction and personal relationship in there.
Yeah.
And I know Catholics aren't really big on personal relationship with God. I don't believe they believe it's possible. I think you have to go through saints and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know a lot about Catholicism, but what I've been learning lately does not make it look great.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's sad to me to see stuff like that, because that there are people who felt like they felt like I'm genuinely doing this as a profession of my faith to everyone around. But because that one guy said something kind of incorrectly, that you're saying that this doesn't mean anything. I mean,
Jeez,
like if our spiritual father, or one of our spiritual fathers, Bishop Jerry Pruitt, was like, hey guys, I know you feel like you've been serving God your whole life, but actually you haven't, because you weren't wearing crosses around your neck and your wrists at all times.
Yeah.
Like, that would make me not only question everything I believed about my faith, or at least my faith, or my respect for him and for his ministry, but it would also make me, I mean, everything I learned from him would be like, hold on. So you're saying this one little thing is messing up, is spoiling all of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a controlled humanistic problem.
Dude, it's such a burden on the shoulders of anybody who's trying to take that serious. Like to know that, and to, like, if you're just buying into it wholly, you know, with your whole heart, and to think like, I gotta do it it reminds me of like the Pharisees, you know, in the Bible. It's like, nope, it's gotta be done this way or it doesn't work, you know? Dude, that's not God, man. That's not God at all.
Not at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Jeez, that's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so sad, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such a bummer. You got,
and that's what it's come down to. Like, the manipulation has gotten so bad that now it's come down to something that you need to recite perfectly, or else it doesn't work, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Who's like, oh, dude, I can't even form a sentence, bro.
Yeah, exactly. It's baffling. Now, I heard a comedian talking about, it's his name, Andrew Schultz, I think. I know I got Schultz right. I'm pretty sure his name is Andrew. Yeah. Talking about basically about TikTok and how it affects, or how the algorithms are differently for different nations. How apparently in China, because it originated in China, it's still the parent companies in China operating.
Did you send me that?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I saw that video
on
too.
Another podcast. I think it's kind of just going around because he made a really good point.
Yeah, I saw the snippet of it. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, that so over there it's obviously that app is targeted towards youth, towards the younger people. And so what the algorithm in China does is it encourages things like learning trades, learning useful skills, that sort of thing. And in America, it encourages youth to do stupid stuff.
Mindless things,
dumb little dances that aren't even interesting. Yeah. And it doesn't even snag just the youth here. Adults, people my parents' age, doing these dumb dances.
Yeah.
And I don't fault it at face value for that, but we have an entire generation now coming up under us who, I mean, I always thought, because millennials, at least everybody I knew, it was so much about authenticity. It was so much about being real, about getting rid of all the pomp and the show, and just being, you know, that's why I think the biggest celebrities now are the ones who are, at least seem transparent on social media.
Yeah.
But this generation, so I thought that was going to continue. So I thought Gen Z would just be bloodhounds smelling the BS from a mile away.
Yeah.
But it's actually turned into something different, where it seems to me that they embrace the fake and the false. They embrace these filters on Instagram, and instead of coming at it from well, that's not you. You know, that's fake.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's life is perfect. Clearly you're shaping your Instagram feed to give off a certain narrative. Instead, what they're doing is, so my life, it doesn't actually have to be perfect. I just have to make everybody believe it is.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to learn to fake it.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that's not what this generation around the world is learning. But in America, that's what our kids are being taught.
Yeah.
And that is a terrifying thought, man.
Well, and they're getting rich off of it because of the algorithm.
Some of them are getting rich off of it. Enough of them are getting rich off of it that everyone thinks they can get rich off of it.
Yeah. It's damage, man.
Yeah, what's going to look like in 10 years? You know?
Yeah.
I tell you what, my kids aren't going to follow that path. My kids are going to be the weird ones where they're like, oh my God, you know how to do math?
Yeah,
What?
you know how to count past 10?
Yeah, and you don't have to use your fingers?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And this is, I mean, you know, and I mean, this is all just an example. I don't have anything against any part of China personally. I don't believe the same way that I don't believe communism ever truly succeeds for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different face of greed, like capitalism can be.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
but so it's just, I guess it all comes down to, you have to be vigilant in yourself, and in the people you can affect. Teach them, teach whoever you can, your kids, your nieces, nephews, to seek the authentic, because at the end of the day, I mean, if we all get used to living in something like the metaverse, which seems so, like, it just seems like a movie.
Yeah.
It's like Inception.
Well, I read
or the
that
Matrix.
the technology is not even there to keep up with metaverse.
Oh, really?
Not yet. Yeah. It's not even there yet.
So Facebook was just trying to save themselves and they launched it too early or
I
something?
think, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe, technology is moving pretty fast, so maybe it'll catch up faster than we think. But as far as I know, from what I'd read, is like the technology isn't there for metaverse.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then in American society, it's so much, there's such a focus on how you feel.
Oh yeah.
Be true to how you feel. And so there was a woman, I don't know if I talked about this on the last episode. I'm trying to remember. I've brought it up to a few people because it's so bizarre to me.
Oh.
There was I think the article described her as a 43-year-old mom. I don't know why they felt the need to describe that, but that's how they set it up.
Oh.
Was in the metaverse or whatever, and describes herself as being molested and raped in the metaverse by three or four, she doesn't remember how many, 3 or 4 male avatars.
Oh, the avatars?
Her avatar was. Yeah.
Oh.
And by that, she just means, whatever. I don't know what she means. I don't know how graphic the metaverse lets you get. I can't imagine it's at that level. But she felt confident enough that should be seen as a true experience, and that she should feel it as a traumatic experience, that she went public with it.
Yeah.
And accused the metaverse of, I don't even know where that story ends up on that end of it. But what did she have to do to truly get out of this traumatic situation?
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
But we live in a society that is telling you your reality is what you feel is reality. So of course, it's, I don't know, man. I feel like I can just harp on this all night, but I don't know if that's going to be constructive in any way.
Well, I mean,
exactly.
I'm trying to just like articulate that it's for society as a whole to go down this this spiral of focusing on yourself and how you feel. It's dude, that's the worst thing that you could do for yourself is just inwardly, and like it's not gonna take you anywhere. Like it's
right.
Outwardly, dude. Like stepping out of yourself.
Yeah.
And of course there's limits, right? Like I'm not saying just work yourself and grind until there's nothing left. Like I'm not saying that.
Yeah, right.
I'm saying there's a balance, dude. I'm saying like
for sure.
Yeah, you might be tired or whatever, but it's not always about, oh, I'm uncomfortable, I'm not gonna do it,
Right.
Or in this case, like I'm uncomfortable, I'm the victim, and I'm just gonna embrace this.
Yeah.
And then, shout it out from the rooftops or whatever. Like
right.
This lady is I don't know, man. Facebook obviously doesn't have a great track record. They're kind of slimy.
For sure.
And so metaverse, like what do you think is gonna happen?
Also true. Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
So metaverse. It's also just everything now. Look, I'm trying to buy a house, and it's the market right now is insane. It's all investors, cash offers on all these houses higher than what the seller is trying to sell a house for.
Right.
We can't get into anything. And we're with a realtor that's been in the business for 30 something years, and he's constantly like talking about it's over the internet now. There's no handshakes, there's no hi, there's no face to face.
Right.
There's none of that. And you lose so much leverage because you don't get to interact with the owner of the house, you know?
Right.
It's all online. It's all just seeing the numbers.
Right.
It's all cold, cash.
Yeah.
And so we're a new couple. We're trying to raise a family, this, that, and we can't get into anything. And so it's investors that are gonna rent the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind of opened my eyes to something bigger, which is like, it's kind of happening in every facet of society, right? It's like, why do you think there's so many Karens now? Why do you think there's so many male versions? I forget the name of them. It's that we're losing that sense of reality, dude. We think that we can get away with this stuff. We can be babies, and there's no consequences anymore.
Right.
And I think we're losing because it's like that online bullying thing, It's like you're telling somebody the worst stuff,
right,
and they end up, doing something that's gonna affect them forever.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're doing. You don't see the reaction.
Right.
And so like when I was a kid and I'd bully a kid, which happened, I think it's happened to like it sucked to see the kid get their feelings hurt. I was like, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, you got to see the effect of what you were doing. Yeah.
And you don't get that anymore.
Right.
With any of this stuff. Metaverse, like if it goes through, hopefully like there's a way for that connection to happen again.
Yeah.
But who knows, man?
Right. Yeah, I mean it wasn't a great movie, but did you ever see the movie Surrogates with Surrogate with
Keanu Reeves?
No, Bruce Willis.
Where
was it called Surrogate?
Is that the one where he's bringing his wife back? No,
bring his wife back.
No. I never saw that.
This was the one where they like everyone in society, or at least in the more prominent society, stayed at home and lived their life through like robotic android or robotic surrogates. And yeah, so that's one of the threads is Bruce Willis like and his wife are estranged. Not their avatars aren't, but he hasn't seen his wife or like touched his wife's hand or whatever for years.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's been. And that's kind of how it feels like we're getting.
Yeah.
And that was the message of the movie is like, this is what we're becoming.
Okay.
And everyone's like, wow, that's crazy. Let's do it.
Yeah. But that sucks. Let's do it.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, what's going to happen is somebody, whether it's, the boogeyman in America right now is, the communist government of China. But whether it's them or not, somebody is going to be there capable to dig themselves out and profit majorly. And not necessarily, maybe money, maybe not, maybe influence, but they're going to be able to succeed big time when everybody else crumbles.
Yeah.
Because, here's this small remnant of people who have social skills and can talk to 100 people in person instead of into a webcam or into a selfie cam or whatever. And I don't know, like at this point, I don't know that just talking about it is going to fix society. So what I've decided to do in my life is to make sure that my daughters don't turn into that.
Nice, dude.
And that my wife and I love technology. I embrace technology. Most of my job is technology based. But I also know how to change the oil on my car. I feel, but there's also gaps in my knowledge too. I'm not fully well-rounded yet. I couldn't, here in Phoenix, I couldn't get a garden going right now. Like I have to learn some stuff about it.
Yeah.
But I do know that my brain is agile enough to be able to think critically and figure stuff out. And I'm not saying I'm unique in that sense, but I worry that the millennial generation and Gen Z as a whole, or the majority of those generations anyway, is losing that ability to think critically, to realize cause and effect,
Yeah. And I wonder, like, if the pandemic never happened, right? If COVID never happened, would this technology and this way of life, would it have advanced as much as it did in these past 2 years?
Right.
Probably I don't know, man. It's probably advanced way further along because of the pandemic. It's like we need a way to stay separated but close, and these are the ways that you can do that.
Right.
So it's like Zoom and all of that stuff. Whoever the creator is of that, like, they banked, dude. They made a ton of money. They killed it. Yeah,
they made money, and then I think they got out in time because Zoom didn't tank, but it leveled out. It's not, or at least last I saw, it wasn't climbing the way it was.
Jeez.
And that is what I was thinking about. Like, I think what happened is all these technologies that we're building, when COVID hit and everybody was stuck inside.
Yeah.
Some by necessity, but more others trying to seize an opportunity. Other companies release stuff early before it may have been ready, before it was all tested, whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it if we see stuff starting to buckle, like, like the metaverse.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the technology hasn't caught up, but they decided to go public with it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's big enough for Facebook to succeed. I think there are enough people it's Second Life.
Yeah.
25 years ago or whatever, there was a game called Second Life where it was just a life simulator. That's all it is, except it's virtual reality.
Oh.
That sounds boring. And that sounds as boring as watching snow melt in Alaska. Like, it sounds horrible to me.
Yeah.
And I know some people, I don't know, to each their own, but I don't know. I honestly think that this was the beginning of the end for Facebook. Now, I don't know that it's going to take down everything that Facebook owns. Like, Instagram still going pretty strong.
Yeah. Instagram's still strong.
And they got other stuff. Facebook Messenger is kind of taking on a life of its own a little bit. But I don't think that Facebook is going to be the powerhouse that it is now for much longer.
No, I don't think so. I think it's peaked already.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. That's a way to say what I said in like 5 sentences in one word. They peaked. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely peaked, dude.
For sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But like Elon Musk has his brain chip technology too that's coming out, and he's trying to go to Mars.
Right.
So, dude, there's just it feels like everyone's trying to get away from each other, really, and that's a result of everybody just being into themselves.
Yeah.
What am I feeling today? Oh, I don't want to, deal with these discomforts. I'm gonna just go home and be safe or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man.
I don't know.
Well, and one thing I also know is that living in a big city, things are different. We perceive things different here than more rural areas.
Yeah.
So I know that Gen Z in farm country is a little different. Probably not super different, but a little different than Gen Z in a big city in a metropolitan setting. I think they're still headed on that trajectory. I just don't think they're as far along.
Okay.
In that, what I would consider, probably a downward. I was doing that, but it's probably a downward trajectory. But I don't know, man. I mean, technology is a beautiful thing and it allows a lot of great things, but there's always the human element in it that's gonna find a way for, greed and pride and destruction to get in there somewhere, to some extent at least.
Definitely.
And that's nuts.
Do you think the internet should be regulated?
I don't think it would. I don't see what the difference would be. I mean,
well, like, for example, it's not regulated, right? And we grew up in it. And I think of all of the things that I've seen and my mind has been open to
right,
that are just horrific, right? Like, no
right.
kid should ever have to see all that. But it's there. And it's still there, like 30, 15 years later. Like, and our kids are gonna grow up in it. And should they have access to that? I don't think so. I think that it should be regulated.
Okay.
Because it's like, it's such a dangerous tool.
But who should regulate it?
Dude, like, I don't know, the government?
So from what you've experienced the past 2 years in the pandemic, so the past 2 years we had 1 year of Trump, the last year of Trump, and then the first year of Biden. So based on both of those, do you think the American government should be able to make the decision of what you can and can't see? What your kids can?
Not like that, but like to just make it tighter, at least make it harder to get into that stuff.
So, but wouldn't it then be better to just teach your kids how to look away from that stuff, first of all, but also how to deal with that stuff that they might see later?
Definitely.
So I mean, of course. As opposed to giving it to like a government entity, I'm not saying that if anybody's going to regulate it, I'm saying across the board. As a parent, I think it's better for you to prepare your kids because regardless, they're going to see that stuff. I mean, before the internet, there was pornography, printed pornography that somebody'd get a page a hold.
But it was different, dude. It was at a whole different level. Like,
but it's still, if you had never seen anything like that, it still sets things off that you're not ready for as a kid, So, but even, well, I don't want to give it, I was going to try to give a horrific example. I'm not going to, but I mean, of just like what somebody could see, but instead of giving over a freedom to somebody like the US government, wouldn't it be better to just say, okay, my wife and I are the parents, or a single parent, I'm the parent. I'm going to take it on myself to raise these kids properly and not allow anybody else to make these decisions for my kids of what they should see. Yeah. Because what they can't see, that's not generally as harmful as what they could see. But you're going to,
and we're talking about you, bro. You and your wife and your kids, and you guys are upstanding citizens, and you guys are smart, and you're raising your kids right.
Right.
Now, can that be said about every single family in this country? No, man.
No.
Of course not.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about. It's like these kids that are really like, and for example, like I wasn't influenced by the things that I saw, but I've seen what it can do to other kids,
right,
who are more susceptible and not as strong mentally, emotionally, and that kind of stuff,
right,
and the hurt that it can do to this type of mind, and so like that's more what we're talking. Like like raise your kids strong so that they don't fall for these things and like they are not out there, getting curious, or if they are curious about it, they know how to deal with it after they've seen it.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about like the vast population, like the majority of the kids out there, dude. Like these kids don't even have parents to look after them because they're always working.
Right. No, and I get that.
Like
I'm not for giving away a freedom, giving away one of my freedoms, and I don't need to look at all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But
it's not even a freedom though. All that stuff is tracked. It's like it's on there. There's a trail,
right? No,
of all of that information.
You're right, but they also get to choose what you can't see. If you say, okay, the government should be in control, and we are going to vote as to what they should and shouldn't allow people to see, that's one thing. Yeah. But if they get to decide what it is, they could also just decide, okay, you don't get to, what this whole state of, whatever of Texas no longer gets to learn how to blacksmith or how to become an electrician
That's
or how to
good.
grow their own food
Yeah.
so that they're more reliant on the government for
Like
this
government
stuff.
propaganda, how bad that would be
Right.
if they had that control over the internet. Like, yeah, it could definitely get there.
Right. Again, not to keep picking on China, but they do have that setup where the government does decide what people can and can't.
They don't
see
even, I heard somewhere where they don't even know that Tiananmen Square ever happened. Like they've completely erased it from everything in China. Like there's no footage of that.
Right. So you think that's a good system?
No, of course not, dude. Of course not.
That's what I'm saying.
But the way it is now, is that a good system?
Well, so it seems like we're trying to find a quicker fix for a completely broken system. A problem caused by a completely broken system.
Yeah.
I mean. So, I mean, the best answer is that the American church 200 years ago should have done its job and at least not embedded, but what's the word? Like sewn itself more into the fabric of society, not in a religious way, not in a judgmental way, but in a
influential way,
influential way, but also just in a, we're the church, we're here to help.
Yeah.
Even if you don't believe in God, we are the charity. We have resources, counseling resources, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We have parenting classes. We have therapy, and not to spread propaganda as non-Christians would see it, but just for the truly altruistic approach of this is what's right. So we as the church are going to do our best to do what's right.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's ever been a time, at least in American history, where the church, besides the founding of our country, but after that the entire American church has just taken that approach of we're here to help. We're here to show God's love. We're here to be God's hands and feet here on earth.
Yeah.
There are individual churches and maybe church organizations that do that very well, which is good. But I'm talking about having an entire societal impact, because that we have that power, but we get caught up on things like, how did you word the baptism?
Yeah.
How did you word the wedding vows?
Yep.
Oh yeah, that doesn't, don't
that's
null.
count.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
So, so the answer is, it's a long-term answer. The right answer, the best solid solution to the problem is a long-term answer of people learning, but teaching unteaching what has now become societal norms of, reality is what you feel it is.
Yeah.
If you wake up and you feel like a woman that day,
put on that dress, girl.
Danny, then you are now Danielle. Yeah. And because we've taken it a step further, it's not just be happy with however you feel. Now it's, you should expect other people to validate your feelings. It's not a human truth.
Yeah.
And it's not going to build anything good in our country. It hasn't.
I don't think it'll last. Honestly.
It can't sustain itself. But what it's doing is it's making mental illness trendy now. I think this was probably Joe Rogan podcast or somebody was talking about this trend on TikTok where people have self-diagnosed themselves with multiple personality disorder. But they're not doing that. What they're doing is they don't have an identity. They don't have anything that they feel makes them uniquely them. So they're going to hop on board this trend of having multiple personalities, multiple identities.
Yeah.
Just because. And so now it's up to there's 10 million posts under that heading. And it's still debated in the psychology world on whether or not that's actually a thing or not. Whether multiple personality is truly a real mental disease, or if it's just schizophrenia, just a manifestation of schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to get into all that, but it's, I don't know, man.
What, dude?
It's troubling on one hand, but on the other, we're still laughing about it because we know that God's got a way out of it for us, you know?
Yeah, like how much better would the world be if there was no social media? I don't know, man.
Well, because, and that's the thing. If you throw the baby out, you end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater on that, because social media also allows a charity who is digging wells in Africa for people who can't themselves or wherever. To people, it allows people to donate to that from all around the world. It also allows, social media also allows young children who aren't supervised at home to be preyed upon by sexual predators in their neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's good and bad in all of it. And I don't think giving over regulation of the internet to the government is going to solve that. It might mask it as something else, but I don't think it solves anything, you know?
So you think that solving it the best way to solve it would just be to educate, like the mass population.
I don't think doing anything at a mass level is going to ever fix anything. I think the worst thing we did as a society, as a global society, as well as an American society, is globalize solution is to get rid of personal responsibility. I mean, one thing that I don't think anybody had a solid concept of is, in big cities at least, people who were born and raised in big cities, but we're seeing now is the whole big city, everything existence is dependent on things like truck drivers and railroads bringing in supplies, because there's no way in New York City that New York City and the area around it is set up to grow enough food to sustain everybody in it.
Yeah.
And even if it was, I don't think there's enough people in New York City that would be interested in working in that to sustain it. That's a separate issue, I guess. But people didn't even have a concept of what allowed them to live the basic lifestyle that they had, which was, I don't have to go hunt and gather for food daily, weekly.
Yeah.
I can focus on other things, because I know that if I just earn enough money doing something else, I can just go to a store and buy what I need.
Yeah.
And with these truckers in Canada, and I mean, it just with our prices going up, everybody's starting to realize, this stuff doesn't just magically appear.
Yeah.
There's a whole infrastructure that supports this. And if that's gone, they're having to, for the first time in their lives, probably a lot of them, to confront the idea of, if those truckers just stop, where's my food going to come from? How am I going to make enough money to buy $100, head of cabbage? Obviously, this is an extreme version of it. But I mean, North Korea right now can only sustain itself because it has, pretty limited trade, I think, but has trade with countries like China and maybe Russia. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're an impoverished nation that puts on a brave mask because they're so closed off to everything. And there's, reports of people escaping from there, that they don't have enough food, that people are dying of starvation there.
Yeah.
That's
crazy, dude.
The only difference between New York City and North Korea is that New York City has the resources coming into it, the food and that sort of stuff. New York City doesn't produce its own electricity. The whole country is on a grid. Texas has its own grid, and then the rest of the country is on one grid or the other. And I don't remember exactly. I think it splits somewhat down the middle, but if one of those grids goes down all the way, that's out,
Jeez, dude.
So what's the way to survive that? You either rely on somebody else.
Yeah.
You're going to need to do that to some extent eventually. But the other is to become, learn how to take care of yourself, learn how to, even if you don't have all these skills, learn how to not immediately blame somebody else for a lifestyle that you have actively and passively set up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think like public school, I'm glad it's in place because of the failure of so many parents to care about their kids. Not that every parent that sends their kid to public school or every kid in public school doesn't have caring parents or those parents don't care for them, but it is a safety net that does still somewhat educate kids if their parents aren't there for it for them. But having been to public school myself, I would never send my kids to public school. I send them to a charter school right now, but only because, and full credit to my wife, she did all the research on it, but because I know that they hold their students to a higher standard. I know that in the public school I went to, it was 4 years of them just preparing you to take the next test.
Yeah.
And then once you take that next test, you're just getting ready for the next one. Not necessarily how does all this fit? How can I turn this into one like useful education?
Yeah.
It's okay. So to answer these kind of questions, this is what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember at school, they taught us how to guess, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a strategy. They taught us that strategy of how to guess. What is that? What information? How is that going to enrich you? It's going to set you up to get into college that it's going to be run the same way.
Yeah.
So you're going to get through it that way. And then you're going to be with student loan debt your whole life, or, I don't know, depending on how much money you make, maybe half your life. But then you get through college and then you realize, oh, I passed all those tests. I don't know anything about what I'm going into. Yeah. There are, trade schools, stuff like that. That's different. But a lot of, I know I have completed 2 years of higher education learning. Most of it most of what I know about the topic, which would be screenwriting, I've learned from doing, and I learned formatting in school, and that was it. Yeah. And formatting and other and other movies to watch.
Yeah.
But nothing, very little applicable came out of that. And I could have realistically, I could have learned everything I've learned on YouTube, because most of what I know, I learned on my own or from YouTube.
Yeah.
And that's because I knew even if I went through a 4-year college or 4 years of university to get a degree that said I know how to do this, I still wouldn't know how to do it necessarily. I would still have to take that personal responsibility to learn this, even if I had a piece of paper that said, you know how to do this now, So public school is good as a safety net for those who can't send their kids anywhere else, or those and I don't make a ton of money. So we found a school that, that we can send our kids to. An alternate option is homeschooling for us. But regardless, it's good as a safety net, but I don't think it should be a parent's first option is to just put your kid in public school because they're not equipped to set your kid up for success.
They don't even have teachers, dude. I saw some article that said that some crazy amount of teachers aren't even qualified to teach.
Right.
Because there's such a huge shortage here, at least in our state.
Right.
Dude, it's insane.
And our state's like 49th or 48th.
Oh, yeah, we're last,
in education.
man.
Yeah, we're pretty bad.
Yeah.
But even with that, our economy seems to somehow keep up. So clearly, I don't know, whatever. We don't need to get into all that, but
clearly we don't need it.
Yeah. But so clearly they're not necessarily teaching critical thinking. They're teaching how to be successful in the next grade.
Yeah.
And so once you get through, you can have a doctorate, but if that's the approach that you receive in every year of your education,
that's scary, dude.
Yeah.
That you could just be so good at that system until you reach your goal of master's, doctorate, or like doctorate, master's, bachelor's, whatever, you know?
Right.
And then you're in the work field and you realize, I'm not prepared for this at all.
Yeah.
I don't actually qualify for any of these things.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
Dang. So internet should not be regulated by the government at all.
I don't believe so. Now, do I think it's like, if it's seen as a utility like electricity or whatever else, if it's provided by the government, I think it is the government's right to regulate it, but I don't think that should ever be given over to them.
Do you think that it's hurtful? The internet can be hurtful to a mind,
yeah.
an undeveloped mind?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. That's what I'm saying. So it's a broken system.
Yeah.
So either all we have are quick fixes that are just going to eventually lead to problems, or we just kind of have to start at square one and start working our way, back. Because yes, that is, you're absolutely right. It is a doorway for a lot of people for a lot of young minds, for information that they don't have the wisdom to process it.
Yeah.
Which is why I have a daughter who's 7 and a daughter who's 5. And a lot of it, like some of their schooling is online, or at least it has been in the past, for the pandemic. Some of their entertainment is online, like YouTube or like PBS Kids online. They have some games on there. We have one computer and it is out in the main room of our house that is open for us to see.
Yeah.
We don't, there was a little period where Stephanie and I both had an iPad and the girls would play games on that, but doors were left open. Everything was very transparent.
Yeah.
And it will be until they get their own house.
Yeah.
Because and in the meantime, I'm going, my wife and I are going to be teaching them how, giving them tools, equipping them to handle stuff, because even if it's not the internet that shows them something, even if it's not while they're a young kid, even if it's when they're 30 and they encounter something traumatic, it's better for them to be equipped with the critical thinking skills and emotional processing skills to get through it than to just regulate it. Because then it wouldn't be helpful either if my wife and I just made sure they didn't see stuff.
Oh, that'd
didn't
be
have
worse,
access to
dude.
it.
That'd be worse.
Yeah, and then once they get their own place, they get
just
free reign.
Stumble on it and then it's over, dude. Like,
exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would probably be more harmful.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I think the focus shouldn't be as much on the regulation of it as it should be on strengthening the nuclear family, strengthening parents, and teaching them how to equip their kids, what the right way to raise up their kids is. Good, man. Which that all can be found in the Bible.
Yeah.
There's wisdom front to back of the Bible.
Yep.
But we've gotten so far away from that as an American society and as an American church.
Yeah.
Even the American church in general has, the Bible is more of a symbol than it is a tool, which is, it's a weapon. God in the Bible, it says it's a sword.
Mm.
That's not how the majority of the American church uses it, though.
Yeah, man.
It's just Bible. See, you recognize this. There's a cross on the front you recognize as well. Whereas in other countries that are oppressed religiously, it's something special to just get a page of the Bible or to just get your own Bible. That's huge. In some other countries.
Yeah.
For us, a Bible, whatever, you can buy a Bible, you can throw that Bible away. It's kind of old.
Yeah, we have it on our phone. It's an app.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a Bible, but we don't use it because
we have all of the interpretations in all the languages.
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane.
We have access to the Bible.
Yep.
And so as such, we take it for granted, There are days I don't read my Bible.
Yeah.
That's, and I don't think you should be overly religious and strict with yourself about it, but appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
If you really believe that is the word, the God and the Holy Spirit inspired word of God, would it really not ever come off the bookshelf except like at Christmas when you want to read the Christmas story or whatever?
Yeah.
Or would you treat it as, well, yeah. I don't want to keep harping on the point that I've obviously already made successfully.
Yeah, man, very successfully. I mean, it's the only way to deal with the world. It's always been the only way to deal with the world is prepare your mind and all of that stuff to maturely deal with situations that you're going to come across in life.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah. I mean, just read Proverbs. Just Proverbs alone. I mean, there's so much wisdom contained in there. And there are some things that at face value don't seem to translate as wisdom. It just seems like, oh, that's okay.
But it's weird how in your heart, like you read it and it doesn't matter when you read it, but when you come across a situation, and then you just, oh, I remember when I read that, that's relatable to this situation. I'm like, I know how to walk this path now and get through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dude.
Well,
powerful.
So there's a comedian named John Mulaney who generally pretty funny. I didn't find this particular bit hilarious, but I know it's what a successful bit for him, where he talks about when he learned in Jewish. I don't know if there's a specific name for like Jewish school. I don't know, but they learned about this story in the Bible where Solomon where one mom fell asleep on her baby, it rolled over on her baby in the night, and the baby died, and she swapped it out with the other mom, and claimed it was her baby, and so got all the way up to the king, and they both claimed that was their baby, and he said, okay, I'll cut it in half, and one mom was like, all right, and the joke is, I'll take the top part, but then the other lady, the other woman was like, no, don't do it. Just give her the baby. And that's how King Solomon knew, like, that was wisdom.
Yeah.
And John Mulaney's whole bit is like, so he's considered the wisest man in history because he knew, or because like, it was like, he shouldn't cut a baby in half. So, but when you look at it, that was, that wisdom was, I mean, that was eons beyond what was practiced back then.
Yeah.
And so if you look at Proverbs, some of the stuff doesn't seem at face value like it's nuggets of wisdom. At least not all of them. But like you said, when you least expect it, that's as long as you read it, you keep that in you, the Holy Spirit can help you recall that, like, maybe that's not the like weirdest thing I've thought, or maybe that's not as simple and off the wall as I thought it was. Maybe it is. It can go deeper, and it does apply in this situation.
Yeah.
Mustache.
Scratch it, bro.
I am. Good talk. Unfocused, I think, for some of it, but good talk. Definitely not our most unfocused.
Yeah.
But good. I mean, good stuff, man. I think
so too.
Maybe I talked a lot more than I feel like I did, though. Oh yeah. Sorry if I'm.
Dude,
monopolize the conversation.
No, man. All good.
Why don't you give us some closing thoughts, Victor?
Well, the Russian skate dancer on ice got fourth. She was supposed to get first, but she got caught with enhancing drugs or whatever, performance enhancers in the Olympics, which is in China.
Mm-hmm.
And so now Russia's going to invade Ukraine. Maybe.
Oh, because of a skater, huh?
Yeah, dude. It's crazy. Putin was there and he was really mad. And he's like, I don't have anywhere to tear my shirt off except Ukraine. And that's not my country. So we need to invade it first. And so hopefully that doesn't happen. But
what does it say about the state of the world that I fully believe you could be telling the truth or completely making up this whole thing?
You'll never know.
I'll never know.
Yeah.
Hopefully
and with that,
when we're done recording.
Let's close it. Okay.
Let's end it.
Tell it that. No, man. None of that's true. Sorry. None of that's true. Sorry, bro.
I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to keep it a mystery. Well, this has been another episode of the 317 podcast here with my co-host, Victor.
Later,
Our
y'all.
co-host Mike hopefully will be back next episode. I'm sure he will be. I think he'll be recovered from his travels by then. But yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, comment, give us your thoughts on it. Or Rumble. If you're watching on Rumble, we're on Rumble now too.
Rumble us up.
Give us a Rumble, I think is what they call that.
Yeah.
The equivalent of a YouTube like. Comment, follow us on there, subscribe on YouTube, whatever. If you're listening to this, we would love it if you would subscribe, review, and rate us wherever you can. We always appreciate that. And yeah, till next time. Bye.
Later.